What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garments on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Hey, what's good? It is once again the return of the KSC Podcast. Well, not really a return. We never gone anywhere. Fucking sometimes I'm just a bit late with shit. I've been busy. It's one of them. You know what it is. Anyway, what's called? I'm going to drop the plugs up top. Don't Flop. I believe we've just announced Matriarch. So that's going to be the first all-female battle rap event in the UK. So obviously I'm not battling on that ish, but you should support it. That's at the start of October. Later on in October 21st, my opponent has been announced yet, but I will be at Milton Keynes for Don't Flop. Bit of a spooky theme going on for that one. You know what it is. And I will be at the Don't Flop birthday battling an actual imbecile, an idiot, and someone I really fucking strongly dislike called DNT Uncontained. So that's boss. In regards to other podcasts, by the time this drops, you can probably catch me on the latest episode of another one, which featured me and Scouse comedian Mike Carter struggling to explain what the Insane Clown Posse is to Rob and Was. But anyway, enough about other podcasts. It is the KSC. Arrange my shit, but it's mirror images. I don't know where my thumbs go. But yeah, it's SawTenber, as it has been dubbed. We got a new Saw film dropping in less than 2 weeks at time of the recording, and I, for one, am buzzing for it. Obviously, we had to do a Saw podcast. I got some fantastic guests in a second. I'm going to be streaming the original Saw video game on the Xbox 360 every night this week. And the the recordings of the vids will be dropping on the YouTube channel too. So if you never got a chance to play it, you can check out a bit of that there. And I hear it's got some pretty brutal deaths in it, and I'm not good at this shit, so you're gonna see some gore. Yeah, we got that going on. But also the podcast. Let's get on with the podcast. For this, I have not one but two returning guests, and they are two of my favorite people in on the planet. So welcome back to Ariel and Ghast. Oh, that's a terrible layout. How are we?
I'm good. Great. Super stoked to talk about Saw.
Excellent scenes all round. Before we get into it, let's drop some plugs up front as opposed to the end of the podcast, which no one gets to the end of. So, Ariel, what have you got dropping that is relevant to the people tuning into a Saw podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can listen to me on several other podcasts in, the next few weeks talking about all the Saw movies. We're doing a deep dive on each one on the Pod and the Pendulum, and I'll be on a few others that I can't announce yet. You can also follow all my writing on ghoulsmagazine.com. And if you haven't checked out Ghouls Magazine before, you really should, because you're missing out. You can follow me on all the socials at Ari_Hellraiser, and I'll post all my work there.
Okay, excellent. And what should we call it? Are we still in the works for the torture porn book?
Yes, I do have. Thank you. I have a book coming out next year in 2024. I don't have a release date yet, but it is going to be all about the movies of the 2000s that have been called torture porn, and some of the adjacent movies that weren't quite lumped in with that, but also didn't really have a place. So definitely keep an eye out for that. As soon as I have a release date, I won't shut up about it.
Excellent scenes. And also here we have battle rapper, promo king, meme lord, and wrestling commentator, Ghast Buff.
Let's go.
You can, of course, watch our battle on Don't Flop, the horrorcore bars battle. Excellent scenes all around there. But Ghast, what else have you got popping?
I have a fair amount, mate, to be honest. I'm battling Anderson Burris, the US promo king, on November 18th, I believe, in London. So very excited for that. October 22nd, I believe. I'm terrible with dates. October 22nd, Sovereign Pro Wrestling is having our first year anniversary. So we're looking forward to that. Sovpro.com. You can find me at Ghast Buff on Twitter. You'll likely find me retweeting everything by Premier Battles and Sovpro on there. So if you follow me on socials, it's not going to be difficult to follow the immense amount of things I've been doing.
Oh, yes, everyone's staying busy. That is what I like to see. But, of course, very big fans of the Saw franchise, all of us. And we're going to get a bit into the franchise. And like I say, hit up the Pod and the Pendulum, because they've been doing their super 2-3 hour guide on each individual films. So we're not going to be going into like Superman specifics. We're more all about vibes, and I never do any research or make any notes. So does that too. But first thing I want to get into is how are we feeling about Saw X?
I can't wait. My hopes are so high. And I wasn't a huge fan of Spiral, and my hopes were really high for that. And so I know it's not a good idea to get my hopes up so much, but I can't help it. I am absolutely just like, every day that gets closer, it's like better than waiting for Christmas.
Yes. I will be launching my Justice for Spiral campaign later on in this episode. But because I think things need to be reevaluated about that film. But Ghast, how are you feeling about?
I feel like I'm in the opposite area to Ari, but I've ended up at the same destination because my expectations are in the toilet for this one. But I also can't wait for it, specifically because of that. Because the way I see it, like, there's a lot of Saw films I outright haven't liked, but have liked. Like, I've found my way through them, and there's a lot of things I look at for this one. I think it's taking a lot of things from the ones that I detest. So either my expectations are going to be met or they're going to be exceeded. I can't lose.
Yeah, man. I had to, like, obviously I've just done my franchise rewatch, and I had a few revelations. One of the big shockers. Like, as I said, I think, like, we need to talk about Justice for Spiral. Because here's the thing about Spiral. Let a lot of people down at the time, but it's not a Saw film. And they explicitly told us it's not a Saw film. And they even gave us a title that says From the Book of Saw. This is not a Saw film. It just happens in the same world as Saw. And a lot of people, including me, went, well, that's a silly title for the new Saw sequel. Anyway, I'm off to watch the new Saw sequel. What's this shit? This isn't a Saw film. But
yeah, that was basically my exact reaction. Yeah.
But
you're not wrong.
Yeah, but I rewatched it, and for what it is pretty good and gnarly fucking, what should we call it? Fun but dumb with a bit of dodgy writing fucking detective thriller with some excellent set pieces set in the same universe as Saw. And if you actually approach it from that level, which I did not on my first viewing, I got to say it's pretty good.
I'll have to
What's
give it
your
another
opinion,
try.
Oh, sorry.
I was just like, I've watched it twice. I think I need to watch it again and see if I can come around to it. I want to like it. I would be happier if I liked it.
Yeah, it's. I think like what's it called? There's a certain like a tone for a Saw film, whether it's a completely ridiculous down the line sequel or the very first one, and any humor in them is not from the script; it's from the ridiculousness of the situation. But whereas with Spiral, fucking, we're like what should we call it? 2 minutes in, and fucking Chris Rock's doing a fucking comedy Tarantino routine about Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
But if you're not viewing it as a Saw film, that was actually pretty good. And fucking the traps in it, and not intended to have the thought process behind them because it's a revenge thriller. Like what should we call it? And they're nasty as fuck. That wax on the face one, like waterboard, fucking like very, very visceral.
While she has to cut her spine at the same time. Yeah. That one's nasty.
Brutal stuff. Where did you land on it, Ghast?
Kind of in the same place as you. Like I did try to, treat it by its own merits. I think a lot of the flack that Jigsaw gets is, I remember when the hype was coming out for like what was meant to be either a Jigsaw sequel or like the original Saw 10. And it sounded really good. And everything that's come out from the production leaks after the fact have made it sound like what they had in development was really good. But everyone just goes, oh, and then Chris Rock signed on and we just binned everything. And I think a lot of the bitterness comes from people that were expecting an actual good Saw sequel that kind of got completely scrapped. I don't know how much of that made it into this one that's coming out, but...
Yeah, fucking... I certainly think they're doing the right things with it, setting it in the timeline where we still have John Kramer.
They're going to have to someday, if we're going to get more Saw movies, they are going to have to figure out how to do it without Tobin Bell at some point. And I'm a little nervous for what that will be like, but I'm glad we don't have to learn it yet. I'm excited for his return and for Amanda.
Yeah. Flipping, I like, what's we call it? She got capped fairly early on, but I'd say like Amanda's like one of the best characters in the Saw franchise, really.
Absolutely. I love Amanda. And like, I think her arc is really tragic.
Yeah, fucking like she starts in like there's no point in which she isn't a very vulnerable person that's operating, what we call it, under the control of people who are exploiting either her addiction, what we call it, a point in society, what we call it, mental issues, and like whatever fucking past trauma put her into those places that has never really been talked about. Fucking, you don't turn into a fucking like robbing fucking abortion clinics, drug addicts on day one.
Right.
Normally,
there's
like,
a process there.
Yeah, like fucking, you end up at that level of addiction by having bad shit in your life where the level of where the addiction is better than what your reality is. So I think if they even went kind of prequel territory, there's a lot to talk about there.
I would be excited to get more of her backstory. Yeah. At any point. And they could even do that potentially without Tobin Bell if they eventually wanted to do an Amanda-focused prequel. Like, I would watch that. Let's be honest. I'll watch anything that's even adjacent to the Saw franchise. Like, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, fucking... I think, like, ultimately, it is going to have to be accepted that, like, film set in the modern era, like, they will have to continue it without Tobin Bell. So... I think that's one thing that Spiral did right. I'm going to be defending Spiral a lot here. Is that fucking, like, it was criticised because it was pretty easy to predict who the killer was. But fucking, I think there's like two different kinds of revelations. And the Saw revelation is normally, it was this guy. And then you get more of like a Scream type last act revelations, where it was the guy you probably guessed it was, but the revelation is why.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the answer is like because he saw his dad murdered by a police officer and as a child. And he's grown up in a world where he can't trust the police, but he sees Jigsaw and identifies with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it fucking tallies up. But what are we going to do here? Like, let's discuss a few bits of the Saw films that aren't Spiral. So, sort of, do you remember what point you got onto the franchise with? Like,
from the first movie, yeah, like seeing that in theaters and how that ending blew my mind. Like, I was hooked from there.
Yeah, how about you, Ghast?
I think I was too young to have seen the first one in cinemas. I think it came out around the time I'd just turned 14. So, but I think I properly got on the Saw train with Saw 3, which to this day it's still my favorite one of the series. Like, Angus Mafadyen, fantastic actor, brilliant lead. But just I think 3's like the storyline just all the way through just completely gripped me. I think it's got some of the best traps to date.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into that though. What are your favorite traps?
So my very favorite trap is the iconic reverse bear trap, of which I have a replica. And you know, it's kind of a basic pick, but I love it because it shows up throughout the franchise. It's very Amanda-centric, and then it becomes very Jill-centric, and those are two of my favorite characters. So I just get excited every time it shows up. It's not where my favorite kill comes from, so eventually we'll probably get to that, but the reverse bear trap is my favorite. The one that is the hardest for me to watch is the pig vat trap in Saw 3. Like, the idea of drowning in like rotten pig guts is so disgusting to me that I usually have to look away.
Yeah, flipping that's like I feel like that's like a trap that like more people can relate to. If you've ever been around like fucking like somewhere where a lot of butchery has taken place, you know about that fucking stench, like when things are just starting to go bad, like. And that's something that stays with you. So when you see that, you can kind of fucking smell it and almost taste it a bit.
It's gross.
Yeah. And I have a similar thing with the needle pit because I grew up in Wrexham. How about yourself, Ghast?
I love the rack from 3. I think like the way that it builds tension, particularly the death itself, awful. And it's so key to the film as a whole as well. The one I find least comfortable to watch, probably the fish hook trap from 3D.
Ooh, yeah.
Not a fan of 3D, but I just love the idea.
It's in the throat, right?
In the throat, but being quiet during it, just as it escalates and just starts yanking, I'm like, nah, mate, no, I'm good. I'm good on this.
Yeah, I watched a Korean film called The Lake recently, where a guy tries to kill himself by doing that twice, and it's fucking minging, like
inefficient. First of all, and also just like way more horrible than it needs to be. What an interesting choice.
It is a pretty crazy film. It is a pretty crazy film. Like, I'd recommend it. I've since found out the director was a bit of a bad guy and all, but he's dead. So you're not supporting anyone bad by watching it.
Good
but the fish trap, like, so you didn't see? Did you see Saw 3D in Saw 3D?
I did, yeah.
I didn't. No, I've only seen it the 2D version, which does not look great on high definition TVs in 2023.
Not a fan of pink blood.
It's very pink, isn't it? It looks like Ghostbusters, like the pink in Ghostbusters 2. That's what it looks like.
It is like, this is the thing I keep coming back to about some films from the torture porn era are better on DVD than Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I watched that film. I've got the box set here with all the Blu-rays. It's got all the DVD discs separately because it's from some weird era. And they've literally just put a release DVD of Jigsaw in it. I watched that. I watched the lower quality version for that reason. But that's something that like AI could be useful for, is recoloring shit CGI blood from that weird period when everything had to be fucking 3D.
Yeah, that's true. Was it fun to watch in 3D though?
No. I'm gonna be honest, just because I'm not a fan of Saw 3D in general. You can tell even in 2D, you can tell the bits they put in just to have a 3D moment, and they're not great. Like obviously, like Jill's dream death, a lot of the splatter, the reverse better. It's all really superfluous and doesn't really add anything.
Doesn't Dr. Gordon like throw a saw at the end that comes spinning at your face?
That was the 3D bit that was a bit too on the nose for me in the cinema.
It's very on the nose, yeah.
It's like 3D in horror has not progressed in 30 years past Freddy's head flying at the camera in Freddy's Dead. Like it adds so little, honestly.
Yeah. Like around that time of the 3D boom, like I saw Texas Chainsaw 3D, and the thing about that film is that they restored like some of the original film, like in 3D, and had it as the intro, and it looks incredible. And then they just had a film that just sucks after it.
No, I love Texas Chainsaw 3D. It's so much fun. It doesn't look good in 3D, probably, but it's so much fun.
I'll watch it and enjoy it. But at the time, you had no idea how gassed up I was, saying, oh my God, they made the original look so incredible.
And then the rest of it's kind of a letdown. I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, flipping. It might have hit me with the old spiral expectations in the opening scene there. But yeah, flipping. That was another thing that happened on this rewatch. Currently, in my Saw ranking, I've got the final chapter at number 4.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it was like right near the bottom for ages. But one thing I've had to like admit to myself recently. And when I say recently, I mean literally Friday, is that Bobby just fucking everything up immediately is hilarious.
Yeah.
He's the most useless character in the entire franchise, and I find it fucking fascinating.
Yeah. Bobby Dagan is fascinating. Like, he's definitely... I wish the 7th movie wasn't so rushed, because I think Bobby Dagan's story is so interesting. Like, that would eventually happen. Like, somebody lying about being in a jigsaw trap, and Jigsaw would hate that. But then, like, all the things that are going on with Jill and wrapping up with Hoffman, like, you want to spend more time with that. But yeah, Bobby Dagan's whole test is really good.
I mean, like, watching him go through all those traps, the dude is basically Mr. Bean. He just walks through a door and then just fucks up anything that's possible to fuck up in that room immediately. Yeah. If you wanted to kill Bobby Dagan in real life, you could paint a fucking tunnel onto the side of a mountain and Bobby would drive into it. Fucking like he just
coyote death.
He spends the whole of that film being Sideshow Bob with the rakes.
Yeah, he really does.
One of the things I will give 3D credit for is that they did lean very heavily into like kind of slasher tropes, where usually it's just, innocent people that have made a mistake. But by and large, everyone in Bobby's circle is as big an arsehole as he is and is in on the whole scam. So you kind of have that, sort of audience catharsis in watching it. But then you get to his missus, who, as far as I'm aware, is like the only innocent victim. Like everyone else, is kind of part of the trap for a reason. But it's always rubbed me wrong that she was there by association, that she'd done nothing to be in the trap. And he just gets some awkward scars on his chest, and she gets a fucking brazen bull. which is one of the worst deaths in the whole series.
It's awful. Yeah. I feel terrible for her too, because she didn't know any better, you know?
It just kind of felt weird that like his own quote unquote trap didn't really seem to have much in the way of consequences for him. That's a big thing I've always held against Seven.
Yeah. I mean, some of those things might not have even fucking been a trap. I don't reckon the fire room was even planned. I reckon that's just what happens when Bobby walks into a fucking room. Fucking Hoffman's there like, fucking hell, I've got to put the voice on him. Yeah, this is a test. No, that's just what happened. The most unbelievable thing about Saw 7 is that he could fake it as a cool guy. Because I can't imagine him appearing on that chat show without like walking onto the set and accidentally knocking over a stepladder with a tin of white paint on the top of it or something. Because
he's a mess.
Just it. He's fucking like Mr. Bean. He is Mr. Bean, but people die around him because that's what would happen if Mr. Bean existed in the world of Saw.
He's a really dangerous Mr. Bean.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that about the wife, like, because Ghast, you're one of these people who's not a bigger fan of 6, and for like similar reasons, innit? Like you mentioned that it's not really following the logic. So I think in 7-6 we got kind of the Hoffman era.
Yeah, like I've always tried to justify it to myself in that regard, and like I try to think of them. Okay, these are Hoffman traps. He doesn't really care as much as John Kramer did. That's the way I've always justified it myself, because I look at the trap structure of 6 and to me it makes no sense, because it's a series of ultimately contrivances. Like everything is designed with the assumption that he will get there at the end and the kid will make the choice. It's like, but what if he threw the lung trap? Why is he in a trap that's basically rigged for him to win? Like what? I don't know. I've always tried to look at the trap structures the way that Kramer intended for them to be, which is, hey, if you survive, you come out of this, with a better perspective. So I've always been very skeptical of the traps that are competitive. Like I've always preferred the traps where it's like, the person being tested has a chance to survive. Obviously, I give 3 a lot of hand waving because it's ultimately, a choice of, forgive or let them die. But I've always been like, okay, there was no way the janitor was going to win the first test. Like most of the people in the carousel had no agency other than talking to not be blown to bits. Like, I don't know. It seemed a series of contrivance for him to get to the end bit. And it seemed like there were ample opportunities for him to have died on the way. What would they have done? Would they have just let the mum... Oh, never mind, he died. Out you go. My bad.
Maybe.
But Hoffman is a cop.
Yeah.
So there it is like, I've devised this ingenious trap, which involves a few people dying, but we'll get there. Yeah, fucking Hoffman did fucking like kind of steer it in a different direction. I don't think they ever addressed that. He just kind of became the new Jigsaw.
Like I assume that the people in Riggs' test in 4 were chosen by Hoffman. Like they seem like Hoffman picks. And in 5 and 6, Jigsaw might have picked those victims, but the traps were set up by Hoffman. So I'm not really sure, how it would have been different if like Jigsaw had still been alive and involved. And of course, Amanda's gone at that point too. So Hoffman has no one checking him.
Yeah, fucking like, I mean, Hoffman's first encounter with Jigsaw is when he's just made his own trap just for killing someone.
Yep. A really complicated trap just to kill someone. He makes a whole working pendulum.
Yeah, fucking. I do like the fact that we get to see that, and Jigsaw goes, using shit material, pendulum, bait.
Yep.
And it is fucking bait, and like Because the thing is, like, American police officers kill people every day, and
Yes.
they don't normally need something that complicated. So that's something I find quite interesting about Hoffman as a character, is that he's basically just a hobbyist tech nerd.
Yeah.
Who's just got into this shit with the same energy as me trying to teach myself Unity.
Yeah, Hoffman probably could have just killed Seth in any way that he wanted to, and his department would have backed him up. Like, we see that in 4. Like, the department is very willing to lie to protect one another. So, you know, he really went out of his way to frame Jigsaw. Like, maybe he was trying to get Jigsaw's attention subconsciously.
Yeah, flipping. I think it's a very real possibility. There was a Stan element going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just spent all these years investigating crime scenes, and every time he turns up, he goes, "This is so fucking cool."
Yeah. Wish I would have thought of this.
Normally, I've just got to look for a fucking gun that's had the fucking number piled off it. But this is fucking awesome. Like, he was probably well into trains or some shit when he was like growing up.
Probably has a whole train room at home.
I reckon he's the Wario of the fucking model train guy, fucking like archetype.
Like, honestly, Hoffman's my favorite character in the series, even in the films I don't like, because they made him so ridiculous in those films specifically. Just because he goes from another apprentice, you know, before that became cliche, where, you know, now Jigsaw's running night classes for his legions of people that he's got building traps for him on the side. But at the time, like, him as a second apprentice wasn't that bad. But he's always been a tick in the box of, yeah, Kramer's mentality doesn't work, and there's always been lots of things that lean towards that. But I've always liked the idea that Hoffman is not just the perfect apprentice, because he builds all these traps and he sets everything up. But in 6 and 7, he just turns into John Wick. Like, he just goes, he just goes Agent 47 on people. He's infiltrating through body bags. He's offing every agent that gets set after him. Like, he survives a rigged trap. Like,
right.
If the whole thing is like surviving a trap is meant to teach you to be a better person, no, he wins a rigged game and comes out of it worse, and they have to rig the game harder to make sure he dies this time. If they brought him back, I genuinely would, if he somehow found a way out of the bathroom. Like,
it would be kind of wild to see Hoffman again. He's not my favorite, but it is a lot of fun how off the rails he goes, and I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. He slips out of everything. Like, I could see him having gotten away from the bathroom. And you know what I really want the answer to is, who are the other 2 people in cloaks with Dr. Gordon at the end of 7? You know, like, there's 2 people with Dr. Gordon when they jump Hoffman. Who the hell is under those masks? I need to know.
I think it was meant to be the 2 guys from the beginning trap. I think that was like a production note they had briefly, but it never made it into the film. I vaguely remember like hearing that on a podcast, but I don't know what. I think it was on one of those like iceberg videos that I watched like in preparation for this, but I don't know whether it actually made it into any production notes or anything.
That would make sense, because that trap at the start of 7, that felt like a particularly Hoffman trap for me, because this has got nothing to do with anything. Fucking your girlfriend
just encouraging people to kill.
Like, started shagging someone else when you said you were joining the police academy. That is what happened. Now you've abducted some random college students.
Yeah,
but that's what you're supposed to do in uni.
It's true. You don't need to kill each other about it. It always made me feel weird that trap never connected to anything else in the movie, because it's the only trap in the whole franchise that doesn't in some way connect back to the story. So from now on, I'm just going to believe that the 2 guys in those cloaks were the 2 guys from the beginning, because it makes me like that movie like 10% more. So that's headcanon now, whether or not it's true.
Yeah, they certainly should have connected it, like, because like the other reading of it is like Hoffman's just got a load of blueprints for really cool traps
that he never got to do.
And he's a sociopath with no ethics and a lot of beef with as many people as you end up having beef with when you live your life as a corrupt detective.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is interesting because I mean, like as you said, Ghast, and like it's probably come up on one of the 10 million fucking Saw podcasts you've done. Like Kramer's like mentality, like you always feel that at least he believes it, but the hypocrisy is over fucking whelming. Like,
I've always looked at it like, I don't know whether this was just like, a misstep in the writing, but the very first trap he makes doesn't work the way that he thinks it does. Like, the guy survives the knife mask and he's not a better person and dies anyway. So I don't know if he was like, oh shit, maybe the trap wasn't big enough. Maybe they didn't quite get the message. I need a warehouse. I don't know. I've always found it weird that, like, Amanda survives like 4 traps by the end of it and she fails her final test. I don't know
at what point does she get done? What's a pass like? You fucking end up literally working for him, sorting out his fucking brain surgery, fucking surviving 3 traps, being thrown in a whole movie's worth of traps, where you get slung in a trap that isn't even yours, and fucking he's like, you know what? It's time for another test.
Yeah. The way he treats her is just awful. And he was absolutely prepared for her to die. And he didn't care because he knew he was going to die. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Like, I feel like, what should we call it? Saw was like this boss film. And Saw 2's when the Saw films become what the Saw franchise is.
Yep.
And that's when we get the expansion. And I think there was like when they had it written as a standalone film, and they probably weren't expecting to be able to go on to do this. That I think they added a lot of the mythos and the lore, as people like to say on podcasts these days. Like I think a lot of it got added in Saw 2 and it wasn't in there. Because like Saw 2 is the first time we see I'm not a murderer, I've never killed anybody.
Yes.
Like he wasn't fucking dressed up in a cloak with his fucking knife that shoots out the wrist Ninja Gaiden gear to slash Danny Glover's throat.
Right.
Fucking, you weren't really fucking like. Basically, you fucking it's a millimeter left or right, and fucking you are a murderer by the end of Saw 1. Fucking whatever happens, because you slapped Danny Glover's throat. Just so happens you did a shit job of it.
You put a bunch of people in a house with poison gas and you put them there and you turn the poison gas on and you lock the door. Just because they don't get out fast enough doesn't mean you didn't kill them, dude. Like, you facilitated their death, John Kramer. You are so full of yourself.
Yeah, like the electrified staircase. Like that's not really a game. That's you trying to kill people who are trying to stop you killing people.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely no need for it whatsoever. Like fucking like his first trap buggers up. Madge is an all right one with Amanda, and like fucking what if I stick 2 people in a room together? Now we have a game.
Yeah, he just keeps sort of like. He figures out what he wants to do, who he wants to take revenge on, and he figures out how to talk about it in his moral framework, and he goes, cool, good enough, and he does it. Like, he's not actually internally consistent. It's very much like a cult leader.
Yeah, I'd fucking like, I'd say the social media equivalent is like when you see people trying to cancel each other on Blue Sky, and they just don't like each other. So they've got to come up with some ethical fucking argument as to why they're a bad person.
Right. It's like, draw this line, stand on one side of it. There's no nuance at all. Just cancel each other out.
It's like you decide what your beef is and you retrofit the justification into it afterwards.
Yep.
Which was a very unfortunate blueprint to leave for Hoffman.
Yeah. You wonder how Hoffman would have turned out if his sister hadn't been murdered. Like, would he have gone on the Jigsaw path? Probably not.
I feel like something fundamentally has to be wrong to end up on the Jigsaw path in the first place. Like, that's not just a thing. I had a bad day. Let's construct a pendulum.
That's true.
I mean, like, the assumption there is, like, that he's just shot so many people in self-defense that he's actually bored with killing people.
Yeah, like he needs to take it to the next level. That makes sense.
Yeah, he's like fucking like he's completed Corrupt's Cop, and like now he's doing side quests.
I think that's true.
Yeah, fucking, because he could have just got away with it. So obviously, like, that's when something personal comes in, and this is something because, like, everything that's personal with Kramer, it's related to his condition and this shit that's happened to him, and it goes out from there. And you can just be an unfortunate drug addict who fucking opened a door one time, and yeah, there you go. You are in 7 different films, going through all sorts of shit, and he's got you running, and he sends you to the shop.
He's like, go get this from the hospital for me. Go get this, spool of barbed wire for me. Like, man, I gotta go to so many different. Yeah. So many different stores you have to go to.
Yeah, because we learned that in Breaking Bad. You can't all buy them from the same shop. And like fucking John Kramer, of course, I don't think it's unreasonable to say the world's biggest purchaser of portable dictaphones.
Yeah.
Like, that could be a sore trap in 2023. Here's one of the fucking tapes. Find something to fucking play this on. I dare you. You can't, because John Kramer bought all of them in the early 2000s and forced digitization of answering machines worldwide.
That's true. I wouldn't even, if I had a little Jigsaw tape, I'd probably take it to the library and say, do you have anything to play this? That'd be all I know how to do. I don't even have anything that plays a CD anymore.
Yeah, flipping. It's weird, like fucking, like ultimately the Saw films will end up taking on, like kind of that value of how something is set, how something's like locked into a particular time, like when they tried to do Rings recently, and fucking they have the full first 10 minutes of the film is fucking showing how they can fucking play a VHS cassette.
I've not seen that.
Wow.
It's not great.
It is going to be interesting because, like, canonically, like, Jigsaw dies in 2004. Like, so they're going to have to go back to that early, which is also wild to me because, like, Tobin Bell was not a young man when they were shooting Saw 3.
Yep.
But the idea that they're doing a prequel with an old man who is now 2 decades older is very impressive to me. And to be fair, he's aged very well, which is to say, because
at any age you see him, he's always been a terrifying Weasley old man.
Yeah,
like
he's looked identical for the last 35 years. It's incredible.
Like fucking the Seinfeld episode. Are we familiar with the Seinfeld episode? His appearance there?
I have seen it, yeah.
He's literally Jigsaw working in a record shop. And he looks exactly the same. And he brings the same level of menace in this primetime network sitcom.
They can just de-age him by putting a backwards hat on him. That's all they need.
Fucking, I do think it's brilliant that, they just don't need to digitally de-age him because they flipping use makeup to age him up in the old films. That's some fucking future-proofing right there.
That's true. Yeah. It will be interesting to see how he looks. Because the 10th one takes place between 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. For people who are unfamiliar, I believe it's set between 1 and 2. So he's coming off an exceptional win with his first 2-man trap, and he's getting ready to fucking take over some warehouse space after getting ripped off for a lot of money. So I'm guessing one of the plot points in Saw X is he gets his fucking money back because that guy owns property.
Oh my God, so much. He owns all of Saw City, and they're all somehow connected underground by tunnels. Every house, every warehouse. I believe the 6th one takes place in a zoo, an abandoned zoo, if I remember correctly. Like, he owns everything.
Yeah, fucking abandoned zoos. Like, that's fucking why what you call it? That's obviously something that Tobin, that Jigsaw, that John Kramer had. But I think abandoned zoo is the first, like, when he's got the list of all his cool new assets, that's the first thing Hoffman goes for, because it's the most Scooby-Doo villain thing on the list.
It definitely provides a lot of creativity, all the different enclosures and structures, and the lighting on the 2 people who are hanging in the gallows trap. Like,
he's got farmland, he's got a barn.
Yeah. He had access to a lot of stuff, man. And then in Jigsaw, they find out about this trap that nobody ever found. And I'm like, well, what else is there that we don't know about yet?
So I want to get to this, actually, because I defend Jigsaw as fervently as Kinell defends Spiral.
I like Jigsaw too.
I'm a really big Jigsaw fan. And
me too.
Like, I wish they had continued it. I think that he was a good apprentice. I think it made a lot of sense why he became a brand. I've liked the circular nature of it. He's like the one, I mean, he is for all intents and purposes Jigsaw now, but I've always liked the circular nature of, like, he was in the trap because he made an honest mistake, and then Kramer makes a mistake with him where he drugs him too much, so he doesn't wake up in time to avoid the saws, and Kramer's like, oh, fair enough, my bad, now we're square.
Yeah.
I've always liked that. Like, you know, he didn't pass the trap so much. It's just Jigsaw went, oh, I also shit the bed on this. Whoops.
Yep. Yep.
That is a fucking fantastic thing. Like, because my issues with Jigsaw fucking come down, like, he's a very good apprentice in terms of motive and why he's doing it. And, like, as you say, when you put it down like that, that is fantastic. Like the issue is that he's just fucking shit at finding reasons to put people in traps. Like what you call it, by Jigsaw, we're getting, you did a shit MOT on a fucking $600 scrambler bike that a fucking teenager buys as his first fucking thing with his first wage packet.
And then we find out Jigsaw has a nephew, or had a nephew, until he died on that bike. And I'm like, Jigsaw has family? Like, where's his family? Where are their stories? Like, we could do a whole other universe about his nephew.
I don't think that much thought went into it. I think they just needed a kid dying on a bike ain't enough. We got to make it personal.
I wanted it to be a whole open-ended universe of Jigsaw's family. Maybe someday.
See, this is something how you can, like, start retrofitting things in, because fucking like one of the bits that, like, stands that's dated Jigsaw the worst out of the later sequels is that what you call it? It shows him putting recordings together by just clipping random words out and editing them together. And now 2/3 of the population of the world has tried to edit a fucking podcast. We know they don't come out that clean.
No, they don't come out. I mean, unless Logan is an elite podcaster, been doing it for years. But yeah, no, they are not that easy to edit.
I've seen people do sentence mixing for YouTube poops and things that, no, you can't just make a sentence. Although, now that we're, like, post Jigsaw, maybe someone had a John Kramer AI tool.
Yeah, like a voice modulator
like
app on your phone. Yeah, SawGPT. Put in their crime and it spits out a trap.
Yeah, and their fucking crime was creating AI for something else.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I would love more of that comes out of Jigsaw is I want more Logan. Like, so he's Jigsaw's first apprentice, and we never see him interact with Amanda and Hoffman or Dr. Gordon, you know, and obviously that's for like timeline reasons, but it seems like either he helped for a little bit and then went away forever and then pretended to be Jigsaw years later, or was he like a super secret apprentice on the back end that we're going to find out later in some 13th movie that Logan was working on everything from the start? I
feel like he was just away forever. I think the implication was that he was just on service for an inordinate amount of time, and when he came back, everyone was dead. So.
Like this is the thing, like maybe he was on unpaid leave, because I mean, like, he was Jigsaw's first apprentice, and something during that apprenticeship had Jigsaw thinking, I'm going to need more than one apprentice here. This guy is not going to cut it. I need to expand. If I'm going
That's when he started his pyramid scheme of apprentices.
Yeah, that's how it is. Like fucking what you call it? He's basically the crypto of the cryptocurrency of torturing people.
Yes.
And like you do wonder if why what you call it? Fucking he never tried to draft anyone in with fucking military background, because fucking like there was a lot of military doing torture without even being asked to do it. And fucking like some of them are quite easily indoctrinated into things.
Yeah. Maybe there's more that we don't know about.
And another seed that Jigsaw planted that I really like is the idea that, we've already discussed that we know what Jigsaw's aimed goal was. Didn't work so well in execution, but he has actual in-universe stans who believe it. And they, support him the way that people were like, Jeffrey Dahmer fans after the Netflix thing. Like that girl who collects everything. Like there must be more people like her. There must be like that creepy dark web 4chan-esque, r/John Kramer Reddit community.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fucking see, this is the thing, like, because you'd probably have like that fucking online cult, and maybe like one super serious guy. Like in Spiral, and he would go, and fucking he was going on a specific mission, and he had specific revenge he wanted to take against people, and like he was taking the philosophy, but not necessarily the full aesthetic from it, which is why we just get the standard voice modulation. We don't get a John Kramer voice. So,
yeah, in Spiral, it sounds like they let me do the voice. I think they could have picked a little bit scarier one, but
I do think that voice is very creepy. Now I've got over my fact like that. Now I've got over the fact that it's not Kramer.
I'll have to listen to it again. It just, I was like, who? It's like nasally and whiny. I don't want to dislike Spiral. I'm gonna watch it until I like it. Just Clockwork Orange my eyes open until I like this movie.
Yeah, fucking you've got to look at it like fucking you've got to put it in consider it closer to The Collector than Saw.
And I do love The Collector.
It's just a movie set in the type of place where Saw shit happens. And what you call it? I might do a little short video explaining my full theory, but because I wrote it out for the first time and published it in the Evolution of Horror group on how The Collector is a sequel to Home Alone, and I go quite deep into it. I I believe the fact that he's happy to be a pest. The Collector's willing to be a pest exterminator. And he shows no respect to any animals or humans, but he respects spiders, goes back to his complicated relationship with his brother, Buzz McAllister.
That checks out.
Yeah, and that's also why when Arkin gets a rise out of him, when he's busting out the homophobic slurs, because Buzz McAllister, older brother bully in the early 90s, he was letting the F-slur fly. I guarantee it. That was how you did older brother bully in 1992. So even though he doesn't say it in Home Alone, he definitely heard it a lot. And when Arkin just tries to call him a dickhead or whatever and uses regular non-homophobic insults in the collection, doesn't get the same reaction.
That's true.
That's the only way you get a reaction out of the collector is you got flipping homophobia, spiders. Because they're connected, complicated relationship with his brother Buzz, who was the last person to make him feel helpless before he got into traps.
I am on board with this theory. I am 100% on board.
Yeah, but what do you call it? It is kind of interesting. Like if we talk kind of like pre-Saw, because like there was like the collector did come off a script that was supposed to be a Saw prequel.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was supposed to be something that happened to like Jigsaw as a child.
Yeah, like he had his home invaded. And it was gonna like inspire this idea of trapping people.
Yeah, fucking. So, I mean, that does raise the question: how old? I'm trying to work on it canonically, fucking chronologically. I'm trying to think at what age, like, fucking Kramer first saw Home Alone.
Okay, so is he in his like 60s, early 60s in the first movie? Do we figure? Do they say?
Let's check the wiki.
Okay, we can figure this out. And what year did Home Alone come out?
He's also dying of cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, 52 was when he died. So assuming the early 50s, late 40s, when he started properly.
Yeah, so weird time to be watching Home Alone, but it was a very big movie and it was on TV every single Christmas.
It was on TV all the time, so you know everybody saw Home Alone. I think.
Yeah, so I'm because you do have to think about like his influences, like maybe it was close to Scooby Doo.
Maybe. With all the mask pulling off that he loves to do, like that's very Scooby-Doo. All the Keystone Cops nonsense in and out of different rooms.
Yeah. Is it? I think it's very what should we call it? I've always considered like Jigsaw to be like someone's tried to make a Batman villain and like made films that don't have Batman in them.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's complicated schemes in a dark, grimy city where everyone's on fuckeries.
Yeah,
you know that adds up to me. Yeah. So I said it will ask for a couple of faves. We've done fave trap. I was going to say fave accomplice, but I don't know. We universally decided that fucking Hoffman's ace. But Amanda's our favourite because we like Amanda.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, flipping. Yeah. That's pretty much across the board. And the last one I suggested is fave ridiculous decision made by anyone in the entire Saw franchise. It's a big question.
It is. Oh man, where to even begin? It's pretty ridiculous decision by Hoffman to frame Jigsaw.
It is. Of all the people to fucking frame, not the criminal mastermind.
Yeah.
This backs up what you said that he was the first Jigsaw stan.
Could be a ridiculous decision. I also think of Bobby Dagan to pretend like he has been trapped by Jigsaw when Jigsaw was still alive. Like, wait till after he's dead to write that book of lies, you know? Like, that's pretty ridiculous. And to keep that lie going.
Yeah, but it does seem something stupid enough for Bobby to do.
Yes, Mr. Bean.
Yeah, I don't credit Bobby with the ability to wipe his ass without his finger going through the paper. I do not credit Bobby Dagan with the ability to wear a pair of trousers with belt loops and walk past the door without getting it caught on the handle.
Well, that is hard, I will say. That can happen to
I've done
anybody.
this today, in fact.
That can happen to anybody.
Yeah, but I reckon it happens to him every time.
Yeah, it might happen every time.
He is Sideshow Bob with the rakes.
Yes.
I think Can I have everything that everyone does in Saw 5?
Yes.
It'd be my choice. Because, my God, those holes were clearly big enough for at least 6 people each.
Clearly.
There was no reason to stab the girl by the bathtub immediately. You had so much time. Like, the slightest bit of thought could have got them through every trap in that. So, yeah.
Yep. That's true.
I think I'm very underrated for that reason. Because
it's a good twist.
Yeah.
And I love
like the whole conceit is like, you people are a bunch of fuck knuckles. I'm gonna spell the shit out for you.
He told them. He was like, don't work against your instincts. Work through this. And they were like, no, we're gonna slowly die one by one. And then I love the 10 pints of sacrifice at the end where the guy gets his arm cut in half.
That's such a beautiful shot.
It's gnarly. I love it.
Yeah, flipping Five's another one that's like sailed right up in my rankings. I've always like that. Do you prefer a like talking strictly not the because there's always the procedural side. There's the procedural storyline and the trap storyline in any given Saw film. Do you prefer an ensemble trap storyline or one guy having a shit day?
I think I prefer the one guy having a shit day.
Me too.
I do put 3 and 4 above 5 and 6. I like 5, but like you say, is kind of, it almost feels like the trap side is the procedural. It's like kind of it's connected loosely, but solely. You're kind of like, here's what Hoffman's doing, and here's the guys that are dying. Like, I much prefer the idea where the traps were the story focus at the same time.
Yeah, and fucking that is something you kind of like lose with what you call it. That is something you kind of like lose with like Hoffman, is because fucking like that was the most amazing thing about 2 for me. Like 1 blew me away as a film, but 2 was the one where I was all in on Saw because of the parallel storylines of just keep talking to me. Just keep talking to me. That's all you got to do. Just keep talking to me and don't be a prick. That's all you got to do. And the fucking parallel timelines and everything, fucking my head exploded.
There's so many good reveals in 2. There's like 3 twists at the end and they're all great.
Yeah, the fucking timeline thing was the one that caught me out every time. I'm an easy guy to sucker with that shit because
me too.
That still got me. They did the same thing in Jigsaw and it got me again.
Me too. Yep. Didn't see it coming. And by now, by the 8th movie, we should know better, but I didn't.
Yeah. Do you know what? I just remembered that, what do we call it? You said favorite trap was different to favorite kill. We haven't done favorite kill. Let's have favorite kill.
My favorite kill is the hydrofluoric acid in 6. It's so nasty. Yeah, just all the like getting it injected in the back and then like the bottom half of him sloughing off and all of the entrails flopping. It is, I want to stand up and cheer every time.
Yeah. I thought mine might either be that, but I do love the fucking, it's just like such a comedy shot is like the fucking original Tango Ice Blast when fucking
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
when it kills
Your man
Eric
getting
Matthews.
fucking tangoed by fucking 2 big blocks of ice from either side.
It's a good one.
For me, I've got 2. The first is the angel trap. I know it's a trap, but it's rigged, so I'm counting it as a kill.
Yeah.
I really love the traps. So like the thing you've got to do to get out of the trap is nasty, but like hand in acid, awful. But the actual death shot of that with the ribs, love it. I think that's one of the most like visually best traps in Saw. But also the shotgun collar. I just think the remains that they did with the practical effects of what was left of her head, I think that's I'm a sucker for good practical effects, for good squibs and gore and whatever. And she just looks like a Nickelodeon sketch by the end of it.
Yes. The shotgun collar is great. The threat of it the whole time, like it's never not in the shot. And then you get to actually see what it does. I love that.
Yeah, fucking like that's very much like a sort of Chekhov's gun stage design, which is where the term came from, rather than just putting it in the story. So it's very much a literal Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say
it's going to go off. It has to.
And I say for set pieces, I think we've got to talk about the shotgun carousel and all.
Yes. That you could do a whole podcast just about the shotgun carousel, and because of like all of the people who are involved, all of the things that they say, the decisions that William Easton makes. And I think it's the longest trap in the franchise, isn't it? Like it takes the most time. I think I read that. So yeah, it's really a special one.
Have you guys ever seen the film 9 Dead?
No.
It's a horror film it's got Melissa Joan Hart in it, Sabrina, in her later days. But it's basically the carousel trap as an entire film. It's just 10 people wake up chained in a room, and they've all got to work out what their connections are to each other and why they're there. And until they figure out what put them all there, a guy in a mask comes in every 5 minutes and shoots one of them.
I have to see this. I'm putting it on my letterbox right now.
Yeah, how the fuck did this slip my fucking radar?
It sounds exactly.
It came out like around 2009. It came out around the same time as The Collector. I think it went under the radar. I think it was like an Amazon Film original when Amazon Film wasn't really taking off in the early days. But I remember watching it in uni and thinking, this is just a Saw film without the budget.
I love it.
I can't wait. I get a lot of vibes from the carousel trap from that film.
Yeah, I've just checked on Just Watched. It is free to watch on UK Prime, and if it isn't in America, it'll be on Tubi.
Yeah. Yep.
Fucking Tubi's great, isn't it? It's not related to this conversation, but it's fucking fantastic.
It is.
But I think it has I think it's become a bit of an issue that's become like one of my sources for like extreme cinema. Like they put the American guinea pigs on like fucking Arrow, on the Arrow app now. But I've seen them all through Tubi, and I don't think I can watch an American guinea pig film without commercials.
I was gonna say the commercials on Tubi are the best part. Sometimes they get a little bit unhinged.
Yeah, they're particularly insane in the UK because like you can't advertise medical products,
right?
And you know because
which is a good rule.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all the, take this drug. Side effects may include death. Like, okay, cool.
That was the thing that just blew my mind most about American culture is like, I can't say like you're supposed to get the shit off doctors, like fucking not the telly.
Yeah,
and then
it's
you
a
go
little
to
bit
doctors
fucked.
and they're paid by the telly.
Yep.
And they're paid by the same people who are making the advert.
Which leads us to Saw 6.
Yeah. I know. I think that's why another reason that so many people have Saw 6 as a favorite is that fucking like there's a lot of injustices, some a bit worse than others that people end up in traps for. But I think Saw 6 is the one that fucking like everyone, certainly in America who watched it, has a personal story that they can connect to that affected them, that they can connect to how shitty that industry is.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely enhances my enjoyment of Saw 6 for sure.
Yeah. Do you know what? Fucking, if they hadn't used that plot for Saw 6 and they brought it out these days, it would be called Woke Saw, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
This is it, because anytime somebody calls out actual injustice, we can't talk about it now. We've got some fuckeries going on over in the UK, I don't know if you've heard about that, with Russell Brand, who has been a known bad guy fucking in the entertainment for a couple of decades now.
It's always the ones you most suspect, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always the ones that people told you definitely did it 2 decades before anyone said anything, because we have a thing in the UK called super injunctions.
Okay.
Which is the most corrupt thing about UK society. It basically means if you're an evil person, but you're either super rich and can afford the finest lawyers, or enough of a high level in the entertainment industry to be protected, you can literally get a law that means no one can even talk about your crimes.
Okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and you can get it put in place before the investigation takes place. So even if you're literally being investigated for it, no one can report on it.
That's fucked.
And you can basically even be convicted in silence.
Holy shit. Yeah.
So, fucking when those things go in place, when it's something that maybe is very hard to take to court in the first place, the victims are fucked.
Yeah.
And shit doesn't come out till a lot later, which is how we have things like you got to wait till someone dies, or that they're disassociated with their access to these lawyers before you find out about these things.
Or like the Prince Andrew files being sealed until 2065 and shit like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So fucking we could fucking we need a British jigsaw to be sorting out some of this shit.
I feel like the British should be too good at Saw though, because we're really good at a lot of the contrivances in Saw, especially in 5, come about because people don't listen to the instructions clearly. But we're on series 8 of Taskmaster at this point.
Taskmaster is so good. I love Taskmaster. There was one season of American Taskmaster. I didn't watch it, but the British version, the original, is excellent.
Yeah, if you put Rod Gilbert in a saw trap, he's going to be in A&E in 10 minutes. Absolutely fine. Just getting a quick checkup.
Yeah, I will say though, fuck Avalon. That is the official KSC line, because they tried to bring legal action against the homies Dead Men Talking when they put out their parody version, Task Bastard.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the homies made that. Shout out Freddie Quinn, shout out Ron Mulholland, and that's on YouTube now, and you should watch it because Avalon lost.
Yeah, I mean that's parody. That's not even a question.
Yeah, fucking a lot of people became really familiar with parody law in a very short space of time earlier this year.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, legal system's fucked. And the ironic thing is sorry to go back to Brand, but all these fuckers defending him are going mainstream media, corrupt institutions. The fact he was protected when he worked for them is the proof of the fucking mainstream media corruption that you're claiming. And sorry, I've gone off on a tangent that I should not have gone. Fucking might start building a saw trap. Nah, be shit with me. I fucking I can manage this flak pack, but building stuff without instructions. And I don't read the instructions first time.
I don't either. I hate reading instructions. Yeah, which is exactly, Ghast, what you were just saying. I would absolutely die in a saw trap.
I'd love to see a saw trap where it just it's like a pendulum or whatever, and it just falls off and the guy's just like,
because somebody
what?
didn't build it right.
Hang on.
It would be kind of funny. Like Jigsaw's stuff always works exactly as he intends, and I'm like, what if it just fucking broke one day?
I think the impressive thing is that the traps, my understanding is that they are built to function. Like they work as they say they work. Like they don't have to do that, but credit to them that they do. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't say, "Oh no, it's unrealistic." It's like, no, guys, we literally built the trap for the film.
Yeah, fucking like I think that engineering angle's like very, very. That's something that also appeals to me. Because I've got a bit of that nerd in me myself, not enough to understand it, but the fact that someone does is something I rate. I was just thinking, like, the infinitely funnier fucking introduction of Hoffman to Kramer is if he builds the pendulum trap and he doesn't fix it to the wall and it to the roof correctly and it falls off and it crushes the guy instead of pendulum him in. And fucking, Kramer walks in on him when we eventually see their first meeting and says, "What the fuck?"
This is show craftsmanship.
Instead of, "This blade's a bit shit." Well, cut him half, didn't it? Like, yeah. And of course, we go back to our long missing first apprentice. Like, what are some of his fuck ups like?
Yeah.
I think the main fuck up is that he's very blatantly evil when he turns up in 3D.
Yeah.
Like it's not really a twist when he's revealed as the apprentice because he spent the whole time doing his slow golf clap and I'm so impressed with what you're doing. It's like you're evil. We can tell you're evil. Like,
yeah. Yes.
Like there's no ambiguity to it. You know that he's an apprentice the second he shows up on screen.
Yeah, I think he might have been an apprentice around the time of the reverse bear trap being designed, because I think the reverse bear trap is probably the last time John Kramer did a really goth trap. Because it doesn't need to look like that. Do you want to pull it out again?
Yeah, it's got the gears.
Yeah.
It's got like pipes and things. Yeah. It's pretty sick.
It doesn't need that teeth design. That doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
That's added in to make it look cool.
Yeah, like the spike mask didn't need the one eye hole. That wasn't needed.
That's true.
I've
never thought about that. That's a really good point. That was just for us.
Yeah. Flipping it. Like that's an interesting thing that they never. I'd just like to see one moment of John Kramer designing something going.
We get kind of close to it
because you put like cool aesthetics into a device that's going to kill the only person who ever sees it, and the cops.
Like it just comes in while Jill's cooking dinner, like with some blueprint. Like, yo, this is sick. You need to see this.
The closest we get to that is in 3 when he says, "This is my personal favorite. I call it the rack." Because we've never heard him name his traps before. Like he says to Amanda, "You could think of this as a reverse bear trap." But he literally names the rack and he says it's his favorite. So that's kind of him giggling over a blueprint.
Yeah, it fucking is. I think the homie Devon mentioned that on Twitter, and I thought, and I never noticed it till he said it then.
Yep.
But yeah, the rack is amazing. Yeah. So as I said, we've been all over the place with this conversation and covered nothing specifically, but we've been to a lot of interesting places with it. If you want the intelligent discussions, Pod of the Pendulum is where you'll get them. If you want to hear cool people chatting shit, KSC Pod all day, baby. Okay, so before we go, thank you very much to my wonderful guests, Ariel and Ghast. Hit them with the socials one more time.
Yeah, you can find me on all the platforms at Ari_Hellraiser.
Yep. You can find me on Twitter at Ghast Buff. And also, if you're really into Silent Hill, if you're really into horror tabletop games, I recommend Locust by Cobblepath Games. It's something that my former housemates worked on. I was a playtester for years. It's on DriveThruRPG and itch.io and all other platforms. Definitely recommend checking that out as well.
Oh, it's on itch, is it? I'll check that out, man. I'll talk about some shit after I've signed off here. But I'm going to sign off here. I am Sinister_Cinema on Twitter because my main account is banned. It's kinnell.la on Instagram and Kinell on Blue Sky. No one else is fucking there, though. I see the ghouls, so we'll go, we've signed up, and then I never see them again for weeks. And I just have to watch some people have the most moist arguments in the world. People can't beef on Blue Sky yet. I have to keep checking back on Twitter for toxicity reasons.
We'll get there. Eventually, Blue Sky will be just as toxic.
Yeah, I'm trying to be like a nice person there, and like fucking not starting anything. I'm not starting anything. I'm starting to feel like everyone is. I'm starting to feel like we're all trying to be better people on Blue Sky. And
a fresh start for everyone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all that. This has been the KSC Podcast. And hit the Twitch for the Saw video game streams all this week. If you want to listen when this drops on Thursday, there should be a few of them. There should be a few of the streams already up on the YouTube if you're more inclined that way. So, yeah, KSC Podcast once again. Peace!